Hey, welcome. Today we're diving into something huge. We're going to uncover a secret rhythm that's woven into the very fabric of reality itself. And to do it, we're going to connect the dots between a 17th century philosopher, the biology of your own body, and some really cool advanced geometry. Trust me, it all comes together in a pretty mind-blowing way. So let's kick things off with a question that sounds simple, but really isn't. Are you a thing, or are you a process? I mean, you feel like a stable person, right? The same you that woke up yesterday. And yet we know for a fact that every part of you is constantly changing, moving, being replaced. That's the paradox we're tackling today. How can anything hold itself together while being in a state of constant, non-stop change?
Here's how we're going to unpack all this. First, we'll dig into that paradox of stability and change. Then, we'll meet the philosopher who came up with an amazing answer centuries ago. After that, we'll see his ideas playing out in our own bodies. Then, we'll find a mathematical language to actually draw it. And finally, we're going to bring it all together into one single powerful idea.
Okay, so this is the core problem, isn't it? On one hand, you have your identity, your stability, let's call that your being. But on the other hand, you've got this constant flow of time and change, let's call that your becoming. Logically, it feels like those two things should be enemies, that they should cancel each other out, but they don't. So what's going on?
Well, it turns out an absolutely brilliant thinker was wrestling with this exact problem almost 400 years ago. His name was Mulla Ṣadrā, a 17th century Islamic philosopher, and his solution was a complete game changer. He basically proposed a whole new way of looking at reality.
So, Ṣadra's first big idea is what he called the primacy of existence. He said, look, what's most real isn't the whatness of a thing. Its chairness or its treeness. No, the most fundamental thing is the raw, dynamic act of existing. He argued that all those definitions and essences we use, they're just mental snapshots we take of a reality that's always flowing.
And his second idea builds right on top of that. See, for him, existence wasn't an on or off switch. It's not just you exist or you don't. It's a spectrum. Think of it like a light on a dimmer switch. Some things exist with incredible intensity and focus, while other things have a weaker, more scattered existence. It's all part of one single reality, just at different levels of intensity.
And this brings us to his most radical, most mind-bending idea, substantial motion. Here's the kicker. Ṣadrā said that motion isn't something that objects do. It's not like a static ball that then starts rolling. No, he said motion is the very way existence is. To exist is to be in motion. Change is baked into the very substance of reality itself.
It all boils down to this incredible insight. A thing does not have motion. A thing is motion. Just let that sink in for a minute. The universe isn't a collection of static objects. It's a symphony of dynamic processes. Being is becoming.
Okay, I know that's some pretty deep philosophy. So how do we connect this to something real, something concrete? Well, let's look no further than your own body. It turns out your own physiology is the perfect, living example of Ṣadra's big idea in action.
In biology, there are these two concepts that are absolutely crucial. You've probably heard of homeostasis. That's your body's amazing ability to keep things stable on the inside, like your temperature and your blood pressure. It's your stable core. But to keep things stable, your body has to constantly adjust and adapt to the world. And that process of constant, controlled change, that's called allostasis.
And here it is. Here's the direct link. Homeostasis, that stable, balanced core, is the perfect biological picture of what Ṣadrā called being. And allostasis, that constant, necessary dance of adaptation, is the living embodiment of becoming. You see? Your body has to constantly become different from moment to moment just so it can be itself over the long haul.
So we have the philosophy, and we have the biology. But can we actually describe this beautiful dance with the cold, hard precision of math? Can we draw a blueprint for it? Oh yeah, you bet we can. Let's build a model, step by step.
First, just picture a straight line. This line is our foundation. It represents the system's ideal state of balance, its most stable and efficient path. This is the axis of homeostasis. This is the geometry of being.
But of course, life never stays perfectly on that line. So now imagine a spiral winding its way around that central axis. This spiral is the path of adaptive change, of allostasis. These are all the necessary little trips and explorations the system makes to deal with stress and new information. This is the beautiful geometry of becoming.
And finally, picture some boundaries, some guardrails on either side of our axis, because that spiral can't just go anywhere at once. If the adaptive changes become too extreme, if that spiral swings out too far, it hits the boundary, and the system breaks. That's pathology. That's disease. That's when becoming goes too far and threatens being itself.
All right, we've got all the pieces now. A philosophy of constant motion, a biology of self-regulation, and a geometry that describes change. So let's pull it all together and see the truly amazing picture it creates. And this isn't just a fun analogy. This is a deep, structural map of how things work.
And here it is. Just look at how perfectly these different layers line up. In that first column, the idea of being from philosophy maps directly onto homeostasis in biology, and that stable manifold, our central line, in geometry. Then, in the middle, becoming lines up perfectly with allostasis and those spiral deviations. And finally, on the end, collapse. What Ṣadrā would call weak existence is the same as allostatic failure in the body or boundary degeneration in our model. It's 3 different languages all describing the exact same structure. It's amazing.
So what this really shows us is how each of these fields gives us an essential piece of the puzzle. Mulla Ṣadrā gives us the deep why, the metaphysics of it all. Modern biology shows us the living, breathing process in action. And geometry gives us the precise language to actually model it and understand it.
So why does any of this matter? Because this unified model gives us a brand new, incredibly powerful way to think about health and resilience in pretty much any complex system you can imagine. We're talking about everything from a single cell to your own mental health to an entire ecosystem or even a society. This dance between a stable core and adaptive change is the key to understanding how things thrive and why they fall apart.
And that leaves us with one final big thought to chew on. We usually think of health as just stability, right? As the absence of problems or change. But if this model is right, if becoming is absolutely essential for being, then maybe true health isn't a static state at all. Maybe it's a dance, a constant, skillful, and resilient process of change. So what does that really mean for how we live our lives? That's a question we're thinking about.